you don't take this crisis seriously, this is going to be your Katrina.
This is New Day with Chris Cuomo and Allison Camerata.
We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world. This is New Day. It is Wednesday, September 27th, 6 o'clock here in New York. Here is our starting line. President Trump suffers his first election defeat. Alabama's controversial former Chief Justice Roy Moore decisively winning the Republican Senate primary runoff, beating his rival Luther Strange, who was backed by the president and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. The upset could spell trouble for the GOP establishment in the 2018 midterm elections. Also, President Trump defending his response to the hurricane in Puerto Rico and brushing off claims that he was distracted by his feud with the NFL. The president now says that he will travel to the hard-hit island next week.
After another stinging defeat on repealing Obamacare, President Trump is hoping to deliver on a different campaign promise: tax reform. The president traveling to Indiana today to lay out his tax plan. We're going to ask lawmakers who met with him if the plan is truly reform of the tax system or just a tax cut. We also have a CNN exclusive. The IRS now sharing information with special counsel Bob Mueller about key Trump campaign officials as he investigates possible tax and financial crimes. This, as we learn, Mueller's team could start interviewing White House staff this week. We have all the news covered. Let's begin with Alex Marquardt. He is live in Montgomery, Alabama, and what a big hit down there.
It really was, Chris. All the votes are now in. Moore has won with a resounding 9.2% of the vote. This is a resounding defeat for the Republican establishment, a significant blow for the president, who took a real gamble backing Luther Strange. The president might have seen this coming at a campaign rally just a few days ago for Luther Strange. He almost forecasted this, saying that it might have been a mistake to back Strange, that it would be a total embarrassment if Strange lost. Now, that reality has come to pass. The White House and the Republican establishment dealing with a very new world this morning.
Let's go again and make America great. Thank you. May God bless you.
Former Alabama Chief Justice Roy Moore claiming victory in the state's GOP primary, using President Trump's slogan to rally supporters despite the fact that he didn't get the president's endorsement.
Why do you think the president supported your opponent, and does that make you harbor any sort of resentment towards him?
I have no resentment for the president. I think he's doing a great job. I think I can support him, and as long as it's constitutional, I'll be on his team.
President Trump quickly throwing his support behind Moore and congratulating him on the phone before apparently deleting 3 of his past tweets encouraging Alabamians to vote for Moore's opponent, the establishment favorite Luther Strange. Vice President Mike Pence following suit, telling Moore, "We are for you," after standing on stage campaigning for Strange less than 24 hours earlier. President Trump had openly wondered whether he had chosen the wrong candidate while campaigning for Strange last week.
I might have made a mistake. If Luther doesn't win, they're not going to say we picked up 25 points in a very short period of time. They're going to say Donald Trump, the President of the United States, was unable to pull his candidate across the line. It is a terrible, terrible moment for Trump. This is total embarrassment.
Moore's victory a blow to both the president and establishment Republicans. A super PAC affiliated with Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell had funneled millions of dollars into TV ads targeting Moore, fearing that he'll be a headache on the Hill and taint fellow Republicans with his extremely conservative views. As Chief Justice of the Alabama Supreme Court, Moore was twice removed, including being suspended for going against the Supreme Court's ruling on same-sex marriage. And just last week, he was accused of racially insensitive remarks, saying, "Now we have blacks and whites fighting, reds and yellows fighting." Now President Trump's former chief strategist, Steve Bannon, touting Moore's win as the start of a revolution.
You're going to see in state after state after state people that follow the model of Judge Moore.
But Bannon also wanted to make clear that he did not come to Alabama to oppose his former boss at a rally for Judge Roy Moore the other night. He said that we did not come to defy Donald Trump. We came here to praise and to honor him. Trump is expected to come back to Alabama to campaign for Roy Moore against the Democrat Doug Jones. Democrats are feeling a lot more optimistic this morning, but it will be very tough for a Democrat to win in this election, which is scheduled for December 12th. Allison, Chris.
Okay, Alex, thank you very much for all of that background. Let's bring in our panel to discuss this. We have CNN political analysts David Gregory and Margaret Taleb, and CNN politics reporter and editor-at-large Chris Cillizza. Great to see all of you this morning. David Gregory, what does Roy Moore's win mean for Donald Trump, for Mitch McConnell, and beyond?
You know, sometimes when you lead a big anti-establishment wave, the way that Donald Trump did, a kind of new populism in politics, and when you ride that into the White House, it doesn't mean you can control the current after that. And I think that's what Donald Trump is experiencing now. Trump himself has campaigned against the establishment as president, campaigning against fellow Republicans, cutting a deal on the budget, a short-term deal. Criticizing Republicans for their failure to be able to get health care done. And now he's got Roy Moore, who has also campaigned against the establishment. I also think it's one of the reasons why, with this result coming, that Donald Trump, I've changed my views on this a little bit, rather cynically waded into the culture wars again, because that is his bread and butter, to try to align himself shoulder to shoulder with the Roy Moores of the country. And I think there'll be more of it with Steve Bannon out there stoking it up, more of this model to come.
Margaret, Roy Moore makes Donald Trump look like a puppy when it comes to extreme views. This man is the real deal in terms of his buy-in of far-reaching extreme ideologies. I know Roy Moore. I've interviewed him a couple of times. I've read into his past. I mean, there are things there that would make Donald Trump blush. He didn't back Luther Strange because of the reasons that I'm outlining right now. He did it because of other political calculations. But what does Roy Moore mean as an element in our elected base of senators now if he makes it all the way through?
Yeah, I mean, Chris, it's going to create most likely some real headaches for the Republican Party, the establishment Republican Party, both heading into these midterms and just looking beyond. To the extent that there are many of those leaders like, Paul Ryan, who are interested in more of a Big Tent approach and bringing women and Hispanics and racial minorities in and taking sort of less extreme positions on issues like gay rights or patriotism or any of these things. So, but for President Trump, I think it's a slightly different calculation, which is how does he play now in Republican primary races going forward? And does he draw closer back to Steve Bannon? Do these overtures to Democrats on things like health care, does he have a rethinking of his more recent instincts on that? Does this snap him back? Tennessee is another state to watch. We see with Bob Corker's announcement that he's not going to run again, some initial reactions from Steve Bannon suggesting that he feels really emboldened by this. So I think there's a lot to come on this front.
But Chris Cillizza, why did Donald Trump support Luther Strange and not Roy Moore? I mean, Roy Moore is the outsider. Roy Moore is the heir to Donald Trump's wave. Why did he support Luther Strange, the establishment guy?
It's very strange. Yeah, that's terrible. I'll show myself out. Yes, Allison, you're absolutely right. Look, if you go through the profile of these two candidates, the candidate that is much more aligned with Donald Trump's views, Donald Trump's approach, Donald Trump's tone, is Roy Moore. I mean, it's not even close. Why did he do it? Because I think he was, remember, mercurial, day-to-day presidency. And I think at the time that he did it, he was trying to make nice, do Mitch McConnell a favor, do Republican senators a favor, and say, look, I'm going to fight with you guys. I'm not going to fight against you. But the truth is, and you saw it with the clip of his speech in Alabama last Friday night, he clearly had second thoughts about this. The deleting of the tweets, the internet remembers, of course, but the deleting of the tweets, the hedging. If Roy Moore wins, I'm going to be down here campaigning for him. I think he didn't necessarily know what he was getting into. And I think once he did, to his credit, go down there and try to help Luther Strange. But this is another vote for Donald Trump's agenda. It's sort of, yes, it's a short-term loss because he was with the guy who didn't win. At the same time, I guarantee you he will blame this, whether internally or externally, on Mitch McConnell. Well, Mitch told me to endorse him. And Roy Moore is a supporter of his agenda 100% of the time, so it's a long-term gain for him anyway.
Right, but he hasn't shown any ability to control the population in Congress that Roy Moore is going to be in. Although I have to tell you,
McConnell hasn't.
Well, neither is Donald Trump. I'm saying, those people who are far out there, even the Steve Kings of the world on the House side, he has shown no ability to control them, even though he's supposed to be a populist kind of outsider the way they are.
White House.
But he isn't. He hasn't been. But Roy Moore is a very different animal. Do we have any sound from? Do we have it?
Yeah.
All right. So just to remind you who Roy Moore is, this is a man who twice got removed as the head of their Supreme Court down there. Once because he refused to follow constitutional law when it comes to presentation of the Ten Commandments in places. This is a secular society. And then he did it again because he refused to accept the notion of the supremacy clause in the Constitution. The man was the head jurist for Alabama. He refused to recognize the supremacy clause. Here's a little bit of an interview with him. You are clinging to a definition that you believe is divine. You said it in your letter to the governor. But you know that divine basis.
You're incorrect.
I'm reading it.
You're incorrect.
I'm reading it right here.
You're incorrect.
How so?
Well, you want to hear my answer? Or do you want to keep talking?
Yes, sir. Please.
This is not about racial discrimination.
It's about discrimination.
It's about sexual preference.
So you think that gay marriage is wrong, right? Just say it.
I think that gay marriage is an alteration of the definition of marriage, and the United States Supreme Court does not have the authority, or the federal courts do not have the authority to interpret a word that disputes the Constitution.
Now, his political position is fine. He can believe whatever he wants. This is America, for now at least. But as a jurist, he had to recognize, David Gregory, the supremacy clause. And he refused to do it, and it created a huge battle. If you go down the line, where he is on birtherism, where he is on Obama being a Muslim, today, I don't think we have anybody else like him in Congress, do we?
He's certainly going to be out there if there's anybody close. I haven't gone down all of his views, but this can be difficult to control. And I think it's another sign of how difficult it'll be for Mitch McConnell, for establishment Republicans, for the caucus generally. And if you're President Trump, it goes back to something we've been talking about the past few days. Where Trump is a bystander president, he may be able to take the reins on culture wars and stir something up about the NFL. It's not giving him any accomplishments as President of the United States. Republicans can't agree on health care. We've seen that, right? Maybe there's a compromise to be had with Democrats down the road. And now there is this ultimate test on tax reform. If Republicans can't agree on taxes, they got real problems. Because health care is tough. Taxes should be right within their zone. But that's the real problem, is that you have more of these challenges coming and a Republican caucus that can't agree.
Going to be very interesting. Thank you all for the analysis on this. We appreciate it.
Big test for the president. And that point about, starting a wave of populism and now not being able to control it, this Roy Moore would be like releasing the Kraken of that movement. All right, so after tweeting more than 24 times about NFL players in the national anthem, make no mistake, the president made this an issue relevant right now, even though there is the reality on your screen. Puerto Rico is something that we would have thought would have demanded full attention. The president is denying he was distracted. He says he's all in to help Puerto Rico. He says he's going to go there. We're going to discuss the change and what we hope it means. Next.